Hey folks, I'm Eugene. Welcome to Valley Navel Gazing, a podcast produced weekly by valleyindy.org. It's a nonprofit news site headquartered in Ansonia, Connecticut, overlooking the beautiful Naugatuck River. I'm joined by my co-host, reporter Ethan Fry.
G'day, mate.
So, a little Australia action. They've been in the news recently. Today is Friday, February 3rd, noon, as we record this, for publishing on Monday the 6th, and to be heard on WNHH 103.5 LPFM within the city of New Haven. And I think this will be our first. We got bumped by Babs. Babs took over our 9 a.m. shot.
Drive time slot.
Right, yeah. We weren't pulling in the ratings. It's okay. They did the same thing to Opie on...
the latest Arbitrons came out or whatever.
Something came out, yeah.
Arbitron, I don't know.
Arbitron. The Arbitron ratings were weak for Valley Navel Gazing, so we got moved from our Monday 9 a.m. slot to an afternoon drive time, or an afternoon
We're
lunch.
up against Francesa now, so...
But here's my thing, I think we're going to be on at 12 p.m., which is actually, that's a peak time when people go online.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's actually beneficial to us. And WNHH, by the way, has been knocking it out of the park with their Facebook Live. Mm-hmm. So I thought we would talk about a couple of things. Maybe right off the bat, should we talk about shootings in Ansonia? That seems to be the big thing people are talking about as we record this on Friday. This could be very well old news by Monday. They could make an arrest. I mean, who knows? There's been 4 shootings in 2 months in the city of Ansonia. And just talk about a little bit about the latest one. The latest one was pretty serious. We're talking shot in the face here.
This was on near the YMCA at State and Union Streets in Ansonia. A man was in a car and was shot multiple times in the torso, and then once in the jaw, is what the police said. He's listed in serious condition at the hospital. Serious but stable is what they say. It's under investigation. Police obviously aren't going to divulge a lot about an open investigation. But as you said, there's been 4 since November 28th. The police suspect one was like a domestic issue, I think, but they're trying to determine whether they're all, some of them are related to each other or not. But I talked to Mayor Cassetti for just a few minutes.
This is just Friday morning, this morning as we record this. So let's just go, because, one thing that's happening is when there's a situation like this, when there's a bunch of shootings, especially when it's out, on an open street like that in a heavily populated part of town, people get nervous and they want some reassurance. At least they want to know what's going on. But police, on the other hand, can only say so much. So let's go to your talk with Mayor Cassetti. I edited this. It's rough editing. I didn't cut really anything out that the mayor's saying, but I condensed it to make it flow. So here's Mayor Cassetti.
Mayor, thanks so much for
having me.
Talking with me for a few minutes. First of all, just anything new about any of...
No, it's under investigation right now. It's possible that they may be connected to the previous shootings that occurred, but the residents have nothing to worry about. The police are on top of everything with this here. No, these are out-of-towners that are coming into our town, and, it may be gang-related. I don't know. It's under investigation. They end up in Ansonia. One was in the North End, and this one here is now over here in the Second Ward.
And is it a matter of, can you just say, put more patrols on the streets or any?
We have patrols. Listen, I'm out every morning very early. I get up early and I see the patrols up and down Main Street on the North End. I travel to North End. I travel to West Side early in the morning, and I see the police out and about. So the patrols are there, and the chief has control of it.
So do you think it's just a matter of the detectives finding? I don't know. Has a suspect been ID'd yet? Can you say? Or, okay.
No, they haven't. I believe they haven't found anybody yet.
So
they're uncooperative.
That was something I wanted to ask you about. At the police commission meeting Wednesday, Chief Hale talked a little bit about this and said the victim in the recent case was, I think the words he used was completely uncooperative. And that's something we hear a lot. I mean, not just in Ansonia, but other shootings that we've covered over the years is that, the victims don't want to talk to police. you said the other day, if you see something, say something. I mean, how difficult is it for the police and that sort of?
These are different individuals. These guys probably are gang members, and they don't want to say anything. But I believe that if you see something, you should say something. An ordinary citizen should definitely say something.
Okay, thanks so much for giving us a few minutes of your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so that was Mayor Cassetti saying that he had not heard whether there had been a suspect. And it reminds me of when we launched the Valley Indy in 2009. There was a bunch of shootings in the Valley. And it was basically, 2 or 3 people, 2 groups of people that was shooting.
A drug dealing organization.
Well, it started off, it was like somebody got shot, and then somebody got shot because of revenge, and then it all gets sort of complicated and bizarre. But eventually, a number of those people were caught and put in jail. Not necessarily for the exact crimes they committed. Some of the shootings in Derby I'm thinking of specifically, but 4 shootings in 2 months is a little unusual. So we'll see what happens
that's
there.
something I've asked police, directly, as going back to that, the last time we saw like it's hard to
spate.
Choose a word, spate or something, an escalation in violence in a short period of time. It was, as you said, like related to that sort of thing. Yeah. But they, again, police can't, before they've, while the investigation's still open, they were sort of hesitant to comment on that.
Yeah, so I guess hang tight, everybody. And who knows, maybe by the time this posts Monday, there'll have been an arrest. So you want to go over the most read stories of the week on valleyindy.org? And I just got the political season has started in the city of Derby, which is because I've got my first.
Does it ever end?
I've got my first accusation of almost bias, and it's just from someone who doesn't even read. I love when people don't read the publication and just make assumptions. And that's that. Welcome to 2017 media literacy. All right. There. I'm not going to say anything more. I'm bitter.
Number 5. This is the most read stories of the past week. Number 5. Comic Artie Lang talks Howard Stern, Donald Trump, forces us to use our bleep button. That was the impromptu podcast you did with former Stern Show host, participant,
co-host,
one of the Beatles, Artie Lang. Or no, not one of the Beatles. Famously replaced one of the Beatles. Excuse me. It's an inside reference to the Howard Stern Show.
That podcast has legs.
Yeah, I mean, that was a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
Number 4, this was a story only posted last night. Inside Farrell's new $11 million headquarters. It's probably number 3 or 2 by now, because I did check these numbers a few hours ago. But that's the Chief Financial Officer and Operations Director, Paul Zepp, of the new Farrell building in the Fountain Lake development, graciously let me go in there last month and
pretty amazing.
Take a bunch of pictures.
Because it's like not, nowadays if a company decides to stay in America, it's news. This one's not only staying in America, it's staying in Connecticut, and it's staying in Ansonia, which is just sort of unheard of.
And then, and there's a pretty hefty investment from their parent company, German conglomerate. So nice to see some foreign direct investment, as a commenter noted. Number 3, I think this story was Monday. Feds say Derby botched Opera House grant. That was about the Derby aldermen voting to repay, I think, $110,000 from a grant for the Sterling Opera House. Number 2, this was 4 shootings in 2 months in Ansonia. That was a follow-up we ran this week after the most recent shooting. And the number 1 story was man shot in Ansonia. That was just the initial story this week about that shooting we've been talking about for a few minutes. Sorry, I just got buzzed on my phone.
Yeah, I'm getting messages too. It's annoying. Yeah, so that was that. All right, we'll see you next time. No, what about...
Do we want to do some reader comments?
Yeah, I thought one thing we could pull out is some of our best reader comments that, that made it through our curse word filter.
Like the first one I wanted to sort of highlight, not one of the most read stories of the week, but I was surprised how much it was read. We had
Spit it out, boys. Spit it out.
We worked with Aaron Berkowitz from the Shelton Herald on a story about the Shelton Planning and Zoning Commission not keeping adequate records of its meetings about a very controversial development that they're contemplating on Bridgeport Avenue. And as I said, I was surprised by the amount of readers and commenters that weighed in. But one of the comments, Beth Chiron says, the chairman says audio recordings are sufficient, then says the board likes referring to written minutes. Can't be done with only audio recordings. They got caught red-handed. Now excuses and blaming begins. So it seems that, like with a story about like FOI or transparency issues, it's always sort of, when you're writing about it as a reporter, it's always like the danger is, it's just basically like you're upset about something and, it's like you're part of the story. But it was interesting to see and frankly good to see people, just regular people in the city, caring so much about transparency and knowing what their local government is doing.
Yeah, and I always get concerned because nobody goes to these government meetings. No, I mean, and I understand everyone's busy. But if you do make an effort to go, or if you try to look into what your local government's talking about, it's very difficult because it's so inside baseball. If you don't have documents in advance to sort of prime yourself on what they'll be discussing, it's like going into a room and people just are talking Spanish if you don't speak Spanish.
And that still happens a lot,
And it's just, you
if
can't.
You look at page 17, column, and it's like,
there's that, yeah. But I mean, it's just like, so transparency is just a way to try to, I mean, maybe I'm Pollyanna, but it's like the more you open up the process, and by sharing what are you going to be talking about, give those agenda packets, make them available online to the whole world.
Yeah.
It just, you might encourage people more to not just be like, because people have that knee-jerk reaction to government. Government's no good. Just like, political party heads have the knee-jerk reaction to reporters. They're no good. But
and
anyway,
as you say, like
that.
You imagine like the town resident trying to find information, like, like you or I could go into it, like we're not afraid to just like not be jerks, but like say if the minutes aren't filed within a week, that's a violation or whatever.
Right.
Would an average person talking to some government bureaucrat who's saying like no, get out of here, would they be willing to do that? Like, I wonder. And
like one thing I was grateful, January 26th, like after the Derby Board of Aldermen meeting, they voted on that legal agreement, which essentially, I think it was just an out of court settlement with the National Park Service or the U.S. Attorney's Office. I just went up to the mayor and I said, "Can I have a copy of that?" And she just gave it to me. And extremely important, because then there's no spin in a legal document, really. Here's what was signed. Here are the facts as laid out in this legal document, to which the alderman agreed to. So it just allows a matter-of-fact story, because it's obviously it's political season coming up, and everyone wants to assign blame for things. That document was what it was, So I was grateful for that. And like speaking of Derby, we did another story on the WPCA. Eventually, my fellow residents at Derby are going to have to pay a couple of $100 a year for the $31 million sewer referendum we approved. And I happened to randomly see that the mayor's office did a Facebook video where they recorded it. And it was just a real casual, really accessible discussion between the mayor, Lindsey King, who's the WPCA superintendent, and Jack Walsh, the newish head of the WPCA, which is a volunteer appointed group. And they had a pretty good conversation, and I would recommend anybody go watch it if you want to know what's going up there, because that's a big bill that's going to be eventually coming after years, I guess, of lack of maintenance and lack of attention to our sewers in Derby. So yeah, that's right. We're talking about sewers, people.
Actually,
captivating.
another Derby story was the next sort of
Give me a podcast.
Group
What
of
other
comments
podcast
I
talks
wanted to
about
highlight.
sewage? Oh yeah, I thought you were going to bring out some funny ones. I was hoping there were like some funny ones. You're bringing out like somebody bashing Shelton P&Z.
Well, I mean,
I was hoping,
it's
didn't
good to see people care about transparency, man.
Didn't Chris Bowen say anything amusing this week, or who are some of our
I think
funny?
Bowen hides his Facebook comments from me now. I don't know. But like the Sterling Opera House, there was some. We just talked about that, the whole Sterling Opera House grant. Specifically, like, is it being like actively marketed, like for sale?
Well, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Yeah,
that seemed like a couple people picked up on that.
Yeah, my reaction was the same. I didn't know that was, I know like Joseph Magani from the Seymour Architect had floated a plan to redevelop former Mayor Steferi's plaza on the Green, and part of that was to take the Opera House and turn it into something. So I guess the city is looking at, but yeah, it's true. It's one of those things that kind of came out in the meeting, and it was said as if everybody in the room knew.
Yeah.
But
just a few comments, like Stan Music, one of our most consistent commenters, said, Derby would not have this costly continuing liability problem if they sold this taxpayer drain years ago, like Ansonia sold their opera house years ago.
Although Ansonia's opera house is doing nothing.
Well, I mean, Crave is in the bottom of it, but yeah, the rest of it is.
I didn't realize that was technically.
I think that's the same
I thought it was
building.
Separate, but I don't know.
Well, I know it's the same owner. And then another comment was just Rosalie Coda saying the opera should never leave city hands. I've been in total shock since hearing it's up for sale. People flipped out over cobblestones. I hope all those people in the rest of the city come out and protest, which, who knows if it's like, are they trying desperately to sell it? It doesn't seem like that. But.
Although, in the state of the state economy, I'm trying to say, I don't know. I mean, are there any? I think can they get any more? They've sort of exhausted their grants for that thing, I would think. What else?
And then Farrell's new headquarters.
These are all your stories.
Elicited a lot of comments. The Derby story is yours. That elicited a lot of comments. Peter Michael Tottenham. This was the home of my foundation.
Can you say that name again? That's an
Peter
awesome.
Michael Tottenham. It reminds me of.
It sounds like that's like a 60s era Donovan song or something. Right?
Tottenham Hotspur is a English football team.
I don't care.
Like I don't know if it's like an area of London or not, based in North London. This was the home of my foundational career and trade as a journeyman. I spent 25 years working for Farrell, a great and formidable experience. Ben Muller said, check out all that public investment assisting a major employer. Richard Phil said, looks high-tech, good for the valley.
Didn't somebody say something about they were trying to start a Facebook page for former Farrell employees from back in the day?
I think they. I didn't see that one.
It might have been on our Facebook page, or there maybe because now I've tweaked our Facebook commenting system. So what happens if you comment on valleyindy.org? I have to approve it. I don't know what I did for some reason. Those are last night. Somebody was like, it says there's 8 comments, but I don't see any.
Okay, and like all just showed up at once. Yeah,
I was like wiping my kid's butt, and I had needed
Joe,
an hour to myself.
Nazelski, I probably butchered that. Sorry, Joe, but he said a bit different now. It looks fantastic. Started in, I think he's talking about himself. Started in the Bridge Street plant, foam products, now Target in 1973, to Derby, now Home Depot when Bridge Street closed, and then to the CNC machines in the lower part of the main plant in the Ansonia Erector shop. I started an old timers page hoping to find some of the old timers. Anyone 1973 to 1988, but I don't see a link to that page. So
yeah, I didn't see that either. We've this is the second podcast we've recorded today. The other one was Valley Sports Rewind, and when I saw that, I didn't get a chance to look on Facebook to see where that was. But maybe
Farrell Corp Old Timers Club. I'm guessing I just searched Farrell Old Timers.
Is there like members of it? We should share that.
9 people like this and 9 people follow this. I'm going to make it 10 right now.
That is pretty cool. Yeah.
And yeah, it's the same guy who commented. So yeah.
Cool. So maybe we could share that and amplify that. Voice on Facebook.
Yeah, it's
through our 13,000 strong Facebook page.
Although I wrote that story. It's probably, I don't know, it's probably like 1,000, 1,500 words. But like there, I could have written 3,000. There's so much history there. and like really significant, like there's, major technological advances in like the rubber and plastics industry that have taken place in Ansonia. It's not like the most, just knocked over my phone. It's like, it's not the most terribly exciting stuff, but I just think it's, fascinating history.
Then just randomly, this is going to post on February 6th, and we just got an email. The Derby Legislative Delegation announced they will be hosting monthly coffee hours on the third Friday of every month. This month, the coffee hour will be held on Friday, February 17th at the Valley Diner Restaurant from 8 to 9 a.m. And they've attached the flyer, and that is Senator Logan, Nicole Claritas Detria, and Linda Gentile, and Themis Claritas.
Bipartisan.
Will be there. And I pronounced their last names two different ways. So
just
one of
to
them
cover the bases.
One of them's correct. That's why there was that hesitation. So that's coming up at the Valley Diner. That's on Route 34, 8 to 9 a.m. on Friday, February 17th. So I'm interrupting you in this really, we should call this the Blobcast, the Blabcast. What else you got? You got This Week in History, or you still got some other?
No, that was it.
You didn't do This Week in History? You just thought, I recorded a podcast for 60 minutes, and you didn't think to do the one thing we do every week? How are we going to end this now? It's going to be awkward.
How are we doing for time here?
I believe we're done. So look, this episode wasn't very good. What do you want? What do you want for nothing? We'll see you next week.